What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a brand new Liverpool transfer news video, and today's topic is Malen, the fantastic Dutch striker talent playing for PSV Eindhoven, because Dutch newspaper Voetbal International claims that Malen wants a move away from PSV Eindhoven and Liverpool are very interested in signing him. He could be available for as little as £25 million and he scored 27 goals last season in all competitions, and we will have the full breakdown of this transfer story and also how Malen developed so far in his career in this video and many other Liverpool news. So if you enjoyed these, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on the bell notifications so you never miss the latest Liverpool transfer news update. And Malen simply wants to make the next move, the next step in his career. He's ready for a bigger club, he's ready for a bigger league, and it's a very impressive that he just turned 22 years old in January and he scored 18 goals and got 7 assists in the 31 Eredivisie Dutch League games, but he also scored 5 goals in the Europa League as well. And Liverpool want to boost their attack this summer after, Liverpool had a really big goal drought in the second half of the season. Liverpool want to get another attacker, and 25 million for Malen could end up being an absolute steal. If you watched his YouTube highlights, if you watched how he plays, what kind of goals he scores some absolute bangers. He's an absolutely explosive, really good finisher, and he also can score from long range as well. And I think it seems that this is exactly the kind of move that Malen is after as well. And I think it's important that Malen doesn't have to come in at Liverpool and be straight away the main man, the starting 11 striker, somebody who is expected to score 25 goals in his first season. Instead, Liverpool would want Malen to play in support of to the current Liverpool stars, in support of Mane, Firmino, Salah and Diogo Jota, and basically he could behind the scenes learn how Liverpool plays, the exact role that he would have in the team, and also Jurgen Klopp could nurture him, develop him. He wouldn't be under very big pressure straight away. Something that, for example, Memphis Depay, when he came from PSV, he signed for Man United. He was supposed to be the next Cristiano Ronaldo. He had huge pressure on his shoulders and he wasn't ready for that. He was still a young player and at that point, and Man United just didn't give him enough time to develop. But I think basically if Divock Origi leaves, Malen could be his replacement, and he would have probably a more prominent role than Origi had last season, and that allows Malen the security that if he proves he is good enough, he will constantly be an option off the bench, and in some games he could start, but he wouldn't have to play under immense pressure. And according to some newspapers, Liverpool are already front of the queue to sign Malen. There are a few clubs interested in him, and PSV said that they are ready to make Malen their next wonderkid export, so they are ready to sell him for around 25 to 30 million pounds, which I think could be an absolute bargain for a player who is just 22. He has his best years ahead of him, and as I said, he scored a lot of goals last season. And now let's look at the stats and what Malen could bring to Liverpool. So in the last 2 seasons, Malen has outperformed his expected goals. So that means that he basically scored more goals than the quality of chances that he got suggests that he should have scored. In the league, he scored 11 goals from 8.9 expected goals in the 2019-20 season, and then last season he scored 19 goals from 17 expected goals, and Malen is reasonably critical, and his movement is also his strength. His expected goals per 90 minutes last season was 0.6, so basically he's expected to score in almost every other game, or maybe even more than every other game. And Diogo Jota's expected goals was 0.49, Salah 0.48 and Mane 0.43 in per 90 minutes. And yes, Malen is up against lower quality defenders in the Eredivisie than Salah, Mane, Jota, but that's still an impressive number, especially in direct comparison to 2 world-class players and another who is headed down that path in Diogo Jota. Malen also takes 4 shots per game, considerably more than the three Liverpool forwards mentioned, and his overall total of 111 shots taken was the second highest in the whole of Eredivisie, which is also very impressive. He also scored 15 of his goals with his preferred right foot, but he also scored 4 goals with his left foot, and that's a greater balance than Salah, who only scored 1 right-footed goal in the Premier League, and all of his goals came with his left foot, with his stronger left foot. Malen also scored 3 headers in the 19-20 season, one of which saw him climb above and overpower the defender, but he didn't score a header last season. Salah and Mane scored 2 headed goals last season. And what is also quite important to highlight is that Donyell Malen hit the post or the bar 5 times last season, meaning he's a little bit unlucky not to have had even more goals scored last season. But what about his creativity, you might ask? Well, Donyell Malen impressively provided 8 league assists last season of an expected assist tally of 5.6, 10 assists in total that he provided last season, which is pretty impressive for a striker. He ranks behind Mane, who got 7 expected assists, and Salah, who got 5.9 in that metric. Donyell Malen also completes almost 1.5 dribbles per 90 minutes, a fraction ahead of Salah, but below Jota and Sadio Mane. But his volume isn't a reflection of his ability in that respect, because his 2/3 take-on success rate comfortably beats that of Mane and Salah, who posted 60% in the case of Mane and 43% in the case of Salah. And his defensive contribution, that is probably the main concern arising from this data that I'm looking at. Malen has recorded 9.8 pressures per 90 minutes, really a lot below Jota, Salah and Mane, who recorded 20, 15 and 14. But probably PSV don't press as high and as frequently and as intensely as Liverpool do. So different teams, of course, place different pressing demands on their forwards, and probably Malen would be keen to adapt his game to meet Jurgen Klopp's expectations and how Liverpool play. Donyell Malen mainly plays as a central striker, 104 appearances in that position, but he has also played on the left as a left forward or left winger 45 times, and on the right 24 times. So he's a pretty versatile player, and if he has to, he can play on the left wing and on the right wing. And of course we need to look at the fitness record. After Liverpool's injury hit season, you always want to sign players who will be fit for the majority of the season, and Malen did miss 24 matches 2 seasons ago. First there was a 5-game spell out with an ankle injury, and then he missed a 19-game stretch after undergoing knee surgery. But last season, the season that just finished, he was injury free, so he played throughout the whole season, which is very encouraging. And if you haven't seen the kind of goals that Malen scores, usually it's a low right-footed finish after a run between the opposition right back and centre back into his favoured left channel. He has also profited from a number of low balls from the edge of the area, from the right edge of the penalty area. It should be said that in many of the clips that I watched, the defending wasn't the best. Markers would often lose focus on Malen and instead be drawn on the ball. He probably wouldn't be afforded that luxury in the Premier League, but his movement was nonetheless really effective and predatory, if you like. And his finishing is just as good as his figures suggest. He generates plenty of power on his low driven efforts, but he can also provide moments of a satisfying subtlety. In the more recent clips in particular, his close control was on show. He is capable of gracefully evading challenges before he shoots, and he can also come up with fearsome bursts of pace to take away from challengers. If you want, you can look up all 50 goals Donyell Malen, a special video on YouTube where you can basically watch almost all of Donyell Malen's goals in a PSV shirt. And even though Donyell Malen is a very highly rated youngster with 3 years left on his contract, the reports suggest that PSV would accept a 20 25 million for his services because PSV looked to raise money from sales. COVID hit hard, the Eredivisie as well. Getting a player of his quality for just 25 million would be an absolutely brilliant business, an absolute bargain. You wouldn't expect the wages to be an issue, but recruiting Malen would mean dealing with his agent Mino Raiola, which I'm not a big fan of Mino Raiola, but if that's what it takes to sign Malen, then what can you do? That's his agent, so we have to deal with him if we want to sign Donyell Malen. So now we have quite a few forwards that Liverpool are looking at. Patson Daka, Rafinha, Donyell Malen are three of the most heavily linked with strikers, and I made videos on all three of them now. So what do you think would be the best option? Who would you sign if you had the reins at Liverpool? I would go for Patson Daka just because of his incredible goal scoring numbers, but the other two forwards are also very, very good options as well. According to Fabrizio Romano, the transfer expert, he says that Origi is willing to depart Liverpool in the summer transfer window. He wants to play more, and at Liverpool he just has no future. Liverpool are planning to use Origi as a way of raising funds for an expensive summer, because Liverpool are still looking to sign 2 or 3 players depending on how much money we can raise. And also, according to the Liverpool Echo newspaper, it looks like Liverpool will have around 50 million pounds to spend, plus any money coming in from player sales. So if we could generate another 70-80 million pounds from selling the likes of Origi, Shaqiri, maybe Nat Phillips as well, he could be on his way out of Liverpool. He could be searching for regular game time at another club. We will talk about that a little bit later in this video. But we also could sell Marco Grujic, Harry Wilson, Shea Ojo, and other players, Karius, who were on loan last season. So if we could raise around 80 million, let's be very optimistic, plus the 20 million that Liverpool already have in the transfer budget, that would be 130 million pounds to spend on players, and we could sign 2 or 3 very good players with that amount of money. And I have a very interesting story for you guys. Nat Phillips recently gave an interview and revealed to the Liverpool Echo that basically his bags were already packed last summer and he was on his way to Swansea City on a permanent move, but in the last minute the move fell through for some reason. This is how he recalls that day. That day at training at Liverpool, I dropped out early. All the staff knew that the move was going to happen to Swansea. I think it would have been a permanent move and they wanted to protect me. They didn't want me to get injured in training. It didn't feel like it wouldn't happen. It seemed almost done as the day went on. I just thought, alright, maybe this isn't going to go the way we all imagined this morning. Come the evening, once my bags were packed, I wasn't going to move back in with my parents again because I had just come back from Germany. So I went and got a flat, and that was the process of me moving out of home again. It was very frustrating. I just had my first state of playing for a first team in front of fans and Stuttgart, bringing value to a side, and I loved it. I was looking forward to building on that. I was realistic enough to know that while Van Dijk, Gomez, Matip and even Fabinho were there, they were all ahead of me in the pecking order at Liverpool. It would have taken extreme circumstances for that to change for me, which no one would have foreseen, for me to have a chance of playing regularly for Liverpool. Even just playing, I wanted to be playing regularly and someone who brings value to a side and adds something. That's what I was getting by moving away, when the possibility of me not playing football for a first team in a competitive manner seemed to be taken away and wasn't coming to fruition for half a season. It got me worrying a bit because I am aware of my age. I didn't want to turn into one of these players who is 24, 25 with barely any games under his belt. At my age I need to be playing games, and Virgil's injury was horrible for him and horrible for Liverpool Football Club as well. It's never nice seeing a player getting injured, but in my case it meant they needed to rely on another centre-back, and that's how I got my opportunity. I was grateful to have the opportunity to be in that place at that time, that I was the guy they had to turn to in the injury crisis. There were previous occasions where I might have got opportunities but had injuries myself, so was unavailable. But this time I felt I was in a decent place, having come back from my loan spell at Stuttgart to seize my opportunity. There was pressure because of that level that is expected of any Liverpool player. Not only that, Virgil is the best centre-back in the world and you are just getting compared to him, and whether you can do the same job he does for Liverpool. I was excited to be getting an opportunity to play for Liverpool in the league and to be playing football again in the first team. At first I was just doing a job, filling in. I was more than happy to do it, but you want to be adding value and helping the Liverpool team out. In my first few games I was just making sure I got through the games, did my job, didn't slip up, to ensure it wasn't noticeable that someone who wasn't a regular was playing. And that was the aim at the start, just to swim. But as the season went on, I felt more responsibility and more confident, and it felt like I could add a bit of value and bring something. The manager's done so much for me, and the opportunities he's just provided me with. I'm so grateful that he saw something in me and went out of his way to work on that and do whatever he could to help me achieve as much as I can. I will forever be grateful to the manager for that. The only thing that has changed in my role in the squad at the end of the season being different to what it was before, so maybe he has to rely on me more than he ever used to, and hopefully he now feels he can place all of his faith in me when I'm playing on the pitch. But Phillips is well aware that competition will be a lot tougher next season, and Nat Phillips said this: it's no surprise to see Konate signed. Liverpool is a huge club. They are always going to have huge competition for places. You always have to compete for your place in the team. Even though there is a lot of competition, I see it as another person to try and learn from, a new person's game. I get to see up close, see how they play, see if I can take anything from that. At Liverpool there is always going to be high competition for a place on the pitch. No matter who you are, you don't have a right to play for them, and certainly not myself, having only played a handful of games when the new boys came in. It didn't surprise me when Kabak and Davis were signed. I knew the situation the club was in terms of personnel and centre-backs and injuries, and we needed more players in that position. For me it was just a case of when I get my opportunity to play as well as possible, to do as much as I can, to take it and make sure I retain the place. That's how I approached it. Ozan Kabak came in, he did a good job, he has helped us out massively. I don't think we would have finished the season the way we did if he hadn't come over and helped us out so much. You want to be playing as much as possible, but you have to earn it. There are occasions when you get on there by default because of injuries, but they don't come along very often. If you want to play as often as possible, you need to embrace that fight and play to a high enough standard to hold off such competition. We haven't had a conversation about my future, Nat Phillips said, up until now. I think the situation is, initially they didn't anticipate me having the season and putting in the performances that I did do. Maybe where they might have thought I was just going to do a job and then they would be able to sell me and I would move on. Now they are having second thoughts, Liverpool. I'm not sure. I still need to have the conversations with Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp and just see if there is a role for me there next season and what role they would want me to play. It would depend on if they saw a role for me at Liverpool and then what that role would be. I would have to decide what is best for myself after hearing that. I have loved all my time at Liverpool up until this moment, to have been taken in by the fans so much this year. I have loved having the opportunity to play for the club. I've loved every minute of it. I would love to carry on playing for the club, but I've also got to take into consideration what is best for my career, and that will depend on what role Liverpool see me have or don't have for me next season, and I will have to go from there. What a brilliant, refreshing interview from this young man, Nat Phillips. I wish him all the success. I really hope actually that we keep him, but I can understand why he wants to move on. Probably because at Liverpool next season, behind Matip, Van Dijk, Gomez, Konate, how much playing time would he have? And he probably needs to play at this age. He's like 24 years old, very soon 25, so he needs to play more. Thanks for watching, guys. That's it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a nice day. See you later. Goodbye.